Got it. Here's the interaction call without any labels. Before we dive deeper into this unbelievable story, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Are you tuning in from the US, the UK, or somewhere across the world? We love seeing how far our stories travel. And if you're enjoying this gripping tale of discipline and danger, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because tomorrow, at the same time, we're bringing you another jaw dropping story that you won't want to miss. Trust us, it's going to be intense. Now, let's get back to the action. Tourist unleashes dog on royal guard, seconds later, instant regret. The morning sun glowed over Buckingham Palace, casting a golden hue on the grand gates as tourists gathered, eager for a glimpse of the king's guard. Among the crowd stood Logan Carter, a 42-year-old American tourist. Broad-shouldered and confident, his German shepherd Thor stood beside him, muscular and restless. The leash stretched tight as the dog pulled forward, sensing its owner's excitement. Logan smirked, nudging his friend, Derek, who held up a phone to record. "Watch this," Logan whispered, his voice thick with amusement. "These guys aren't real soldiers. They're just part of the show." His friend chuckled. "Dude, don't do anything dumb." But Logan had already made up his mind. He yanked Thor's leash loose, his voice dropping to a taunting growl. "Get him, boy!" The moment Thor was unleashed, time seemed to slow. The powerful dog lunged forward, its jaws parting in instinctive aggression, eyes locked onto the guard's bright red uniform. The crowd gasped, some stepping back, others raising their phones in disbelief. But the King's Guard was no mere performer. Sergeant James Bennett, a decorated veteran with years of combat experience, had stood motionless for hours, his rifle poised in ceremonial readiness. Yet, in the fraction of a second it took for Thor to launch forward, something changed in his stance. His muscles coiled, his sharp gaze flickered downward, reading the animal's movement with the precision of a seasoned warrior. The dog was fast. Bennett was faster. With a single lightning-fast motion, the guard sidestepped and redirected Thor's charge. A firm but controlled hand grasped the scruff of the dog's neck, flipping its momentum mid-air. The German shepherd, built for power and intimidation, was suddenly pinned to the ground in a move so swift and precise that it looked almost effortless. The crowd fell silent. The air, thick with shock, seemed to pause around them. Logan's smirk vanished. His amusement was replaced by a strangled gasp as he stumbled forward. "Wait, what the hell are you doing to my dog?" Sergeant Bennett, still expressionless, locked eyes with him. The unspoken message was clear. Take another step, and you'll regret it. The spectators, many of whom had seen Buckingham Palace guards remain still under intense provocations, now understood this was no ordinary display of ceremony. It was a warning, a reminder that beneath the polished buttons and towering bearskin hats lay something far more formidable. Something Logan Carter had just foolishly tested. Logan Carter's heart pounded as he watched in stunned silence. His dog, Thor, the same German shepherd that had once terrified trespassers back home, now lay motionless beneath the firm grip of a King's Guard. Not hurt, not whimpering, but completely subdued. The power dynamic had flipped in an instant, and Logan had no idea what to do next. "Hey, let go of my dog!" Logan's voice cracked as he stepped forward, fists clenched. The crowd, still frozen from the shocking display, now murmured in hushed disbelief. Phones were still recording, capturing every moment. Sergeant James Bennett didn't move. His grip remained steady, his breathing calm. His rifle was still across his chest, but it was clear he didn't need it. The message in his eyes was louder than any words. "Step closer, and you'll see exactly what happens next." Logan hesitated. He was a big guy, 6'2", 220 pounds, but something in Bennett's stance made his size irrelevant. The guard wasn't just some stiff ceremonial figure. This was a soldier, a man who had seen real combat. A police officer pushed through the crowd, his radio crackling. "Sir, step back now!" Logan ignored him, his pride overriding common sense. "You don't get it. That's my dog. He's trained." He wouldn't. Bennett's expression didn't change. His voice was low but firm. "Your dog was commanded to attack. It's been neutralized. Now control yourself or I'll do it for you." Logan's stomach twisted. The weight of his mistake hit him all at once. He had assumed these guards were nothing more than costumed mannequins, props for tourists. But this was real. His pulse thundered in his ears as his own words echoed back in his mind. "These guys aren't real soldiers." He had never been so wrong. The murmurs of the crowd grew louder as more police officers arrived. One of them reached for Logan's arm. "Sir, you need to come with us." Panic surged in his chest. This wasn't supposed to happen. It was just a joke, a prank for social media. But now, the cold steel of handcuffs was snapping around his wrists, and Thor was being carefully handed off to an animal control officer. As Logan was escorted away, his head spinning, he caught one last look at Bennett. Standing tall, unmoved, his posture as perfect as before. The moment was over, but the lesson would last a lifetime. The police car's engine rumbled beneath Logan Carter as he sat in the back seat, wrists bound in cold steel. The weight of the situation pressed down on him harder than he expected. This wasn't just a slap on the wrist, he was being taken in. His mind raced. How did this happen? It was supposed to be a joke, a quick viral clip, something to laugh about later. But instead, his dog had been taken, and he was now on his way to the police station. The officers in the front seat spoke in hushed voices, their radio crackling with updates. "We have the suspect in custody. Possible charges include reckless endangerment and inciting an attack on military personnel." Logan's stomach twisted. Military personnel. The phrase carried a weight he hadn't considered before. He had thought of the guards at Buckingham Palace as actors in a grand performance, not as actual soldiers trained for combat. But that guard, Sergeant James Bennett, had been something else entirely. The image of Thor being taken down flashed through his mind again. Bennett had moved like lightning, his grip firm but controlled. The way he had neutralized the situation so effortlessly sent a chill through Logan. As they pulled up to the station, a small crowd of reporters had already gathered outside, cameras flashing. The footage had spread faster than wildfire. Logan was led out of the car, his head down as voices bombarded him. "Mr. Carter, why did you unleash your dog? Did you intend to harm the King's Guard? Do you regret your actions?" He barely heard them. His mind was stuck on one thing. How bad is this going to get? Inside, he was placed in a holding cell, the cold metal bench beneath him sending another dose of reality through his spine. Across from him sat a police officer reviewing paperwork. Logan swallowed hard. "You know," the officer said, not looking up, "there's being a dumb tourist. And then there's what you did." Logan clenched his jaw. It wasn't supposed to be like this. The officer finally looked at him, unimpressed. No? Then what was it supposed to be? Logan had no answer. His phone had been confiscated, but even without it, he knew what was happening outside these walls. The video was going viral. His name was being dragged through the mud. And the worst part? He deserved it. The interrogation room was colder than Logan expected. The walls were bare, the fluorescent lights buzzing softly overhead. His wrists ached from the cuffs, now removed, but the red marks remained. A silent reminder that this was real. Across from him sat Detective Mark Caldwell, a man whose sharp eyes had seen it all. Caldwell flipped through a file, pausing on what looked like a printed screenshot from the viral video. The image of Logan, grinning as he unclipped Thor's leash, stared back at him like a ghost from 5 hours ago. "You want to tell me what you were thinking?" Caldwell finally asked, his voice calm but edged with something heavier. Logan swallowed, his throat dry. "It was a joke." Caldwell leaned forward, folding his hands. "A joke? You unleashed an attack-trained dog on a King's Guard, a military serviceman. That's not a joke, Mr. Carter. That's a crime." Logan shifted uncomfortably. He wanted to protest, to say it wasn't like that. But what could he say? The video spoke for itself. Caldwell studied him, then slid a piece of paper across the table. Logan glanced down. It was a printed transcript, words he recognized immediately. "Get him, Thor." His own voice. Logan felt his stomach drop. "It wasn't serious," he muttered. "I didn't think he'd actually—" "Attack?" Caldwell finished for him. "That's the problem, Carter. You didn't think, but someone did." The detective reached into the file again and pulled out another photo, sliding it across the table. Logan's confusion deepened. It was from a security camera, taken inside a bar. Him, sitting across from a man he barely remembered, Anton Vasilev. "Who's this?" Logan asked. "You tell me," Caldwell replied. "We know you met with him 3 days ago. We also know he's got ties to Russian intelligence. So forgive me if I don't buy the drunk tourist routine. What did he say to you?" Logan's pulse pounded. He barely remembered the conversation. A stranger buying him drinks, laughing about the guards. Nothing. Logan said quickly. It was just bar talk. Caldwell sighed. Then you better hope he sees it that way too. Because right now, you're not just an idiot tourist who made a bad call. You might be something worse. Logan clenched his fists. This was spiraling out of control. And the worst part? He was starting to think he'd been played. Logan Carter sat in a holding cell, staring at the cold concrete walls, his mind racing. Hours ago, he had been laughing, drinking, and playing what he thought was a harmless prank. Now, his life was unraveling faster than he could process. The cops weren't treating him like a rowdy tourist anymore. They were treating him like something else, something dangerous. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. The door swung open, and in walked a sharply dressed woman with a leather folder tucked under her arm. She wasn't a cop, no uniform, no badge, but the way she carried herself, the cold efficiency in her eyes, Logan knew she wasn't here to help. "Mr. Carter," she said, taking a seat across from him. "I'm Rebecca Hardwick, American Embassy, Citizen Services." Logan sat up straighter. "Finally, someone who can save you?" She cut in, her tone flat. "You seem to have a very warped view of your situation." Logan clenched his jaw. "It was a joke. I didn't mean for any of this to happen." Hardwick didn't blink. Instead, she opened the folder and slid a piece of paper toward him. "Do you know what this is?" Logan looked down. A financial statement. His financial statement. His stomach tightened. "You received a deposit of $10,000 last week," Hardwick continued. "Suspiciously close to your little prank. Care to explain?" Logan felt the blood drain from his face. "That was... I didn't." "You didn't think anyone would notice?" Hardwick leaned forward. "You met with Anton Vasilev, a known operative. You received a payment. And then, on cue, you provoked an international incident involving a high-security military officer. What part of this looks accidental to you?" Logan shook his head, his pulse pounding. "No, no. You don't get it. I didn't know who he was. He bought me drinks, said he wanted to make things interesting. He told me it would be funny." Hardwick's expression didn't change. "And you just happened to go along with it? Without questioning why a stranger was so invested in you, causing a public disturbance at Buckingham Palace?" Logan ran a shaky hand through his hair. His mind was spinning. This couldn't be happening. Hardwick sighed. "Here's the reality, Mr. Carter. You're facing multiple charges: reckless endangerment, inciting an attack, violation of protected area regulations, but that's the least of your problems." She stood, gathering her papers. "Because if Anton Vasilev disappears, and I suspect he will, the people who paid you may decide you're a loose end." Logan's breath caught. Hardwick leaned in. "So tell me, Mr. Carter, do you want to be a headline, or do you want to start talking? This story isn't just about a reckless tourist or a highly trained guard. It's about the clash between arrogance and discipline, between provocation and unwavering duty. But what do you think? If you were standing in that crowd, watching everything unfold, how would you have reacted? Would you have expected the guard to remain still, as so many assume they always do? Or would you have realized, just in time, that these soldiers are far more than ceremonial figures? And let's talk about Logan Carter. Was he just a foolish man caught in the wrong situation, or was he playing a more dangerous game without even realizing it? Do you believe he was simply an unlucky pawn, or did he know more than he's admitting? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you respect the discipline and training of guards like Sergeant Bennett even more now? And most importantly, if you were in Logan's shoes, what would you do next? Let's hear your take. And don't forget, tomorrow's story is just as shocking. Subscribe now, hit the bell icon, and get ready for another tale of discipline, courage, and the unexpected moments that change everything.